this video is going to be, is redemption education legitimate? And where can I find books? However, as usual, before we get started, I'd like to give a disclaimer. This video is going to be for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance or situation may be different. It's up to every individual competent person to please do his or her own homework and research regarding the matter being discussed. This information is not to be construed as legal advice. In the event you feel you need to seek a competent professional, it is encouraged that you do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource Channel is not liable or responsible for any misuse of this information. These are simply my thoughts and opinions on the topic being discussed. With that being said, please govern yourselves accordingly. All rights are reserved. Now, let's get into this. I wanted to discuss, once again, the topic of this video is redemption education legitimate, and where can I find books or resources? That's all it will allow me to fit in the title, but I wanted to provide information to clear up some of the myths, the rumors out there that I have been, I've talked about this subject from time to time. I do have older videos, and I've helped as previously to prove. If you go back and watch my older videos, by the way, I have gone over this information. And in the past, by the way, a long time ago, I won't say a long time ago, but a few years ago, actually, there was a video that I put out, by the way, related to this information to prove validity. And I also brought a book with me that I may definitely go over, touch on some of the points. That's going to be some of the information. I want you to provide you guys resources, by the way. We see in the chat section, Digital Gold says the world is not over. How about XRP? Okay, I really didn't have this Q&A in the chat section, just hold on that. Digital Gold, I know I do talk about other subjects. Sometimes I do think there is a correlation to this type of information with people who are involved in cryptocurrencies or different types of investments or exchanges. By the way, you know, I have some information from the little bit of notes. So I want to get into, first of all, yes, there are free resources. One of the most important things, let me get this off, is a lot of people don't understand that there are free resources in terms of books out there. YouTube would only allow me to fit so much in the title, so I put books that do discuss this information. I think that provide legitimacy, because this information I've done a previous video about, it's like an unconventional on a collegiate university level, by the way. This primarily deals with the law, or how you will operate in the public sector as a private citizen. And think about when you're doing business, when you took those classes in high school, college, they were supposed to teach you how to apply different aspects to real life and how you engage with contracts or how you do business. And that's what's so-called, I don't use the term sovereign citizenry or the SCs, I use redemption education, provides a roadmap, a blueprint to how to truly operate, because we were intentionally made handicapped by us not learning legal classes when we were in elementary school, middle school, high school. We're at a serious disadvantage when you grow up and become an adult in general, and you have to enter into contracts, you have to do business with people, you have to apply for a job, your resume, things. There's aspects that the elite, the ruling class, which I discovered many years ago with someone that was part of a group that I studied with, that helped me in my quest for researching this type of information, trying to understand it better. I had some of the same questions that you guys had, and I had to connect the pieces. So I want to give you all an inside look to give you the legitimacy that this information is real. There are resources out there. This book, by the way, I've shown this before. I've done a separate video. The people behind that made this book, the guy at the time, he told me refer to him as Guy at the time. That was like a pseudonym name. He contacted me and actually sent me their updated version for free, because he recognized that I wasn't asked by them to promote their material. I just happened just wanting to share, to give let people know back then there were resources out here to prove, because I had people that knew me personally from some years ago that had made accusations that I want to clear up that are false. And I'm going to go into my background if I have the time and remember what my credentials are. So I do work in private security, by the way, and I had to go through a background check some years ago. I've worked for previous security companies, and throughout the years in the past, I could have become a police officer in the city of Detroit. I passed the interview some years ago, but I decided at the time I didn't go in that field. The security industry is different. By the way, there are differences in training and things of that sort, by the way. So just giving a little bit about my background just shows the credibility of my research, by the way. And just going piggybacking many years ago, I wanted people to know there was legitimate information that dealt with this movement, that everybody that studies this type of information is not a conspiracy theorist. I was accused in the past of being part of a cult. That is incorrect. I was accused by my friend's mother-in-law of being part of a financial cult. I want to clear up, this is not that, none of that. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. I'm not with the Moors, even though they help wake me up. There's different factions and different processes, as one should understand. So I think it's disingenuous to lump everyone and just stereotype a group of people just because it's something that you might disagree with. However, without doing any research, and just say accuse every person of that. I want to say I still support law enforcement heavily because I work in the field. However, I am for fairness, by the way, true fairness and equality. I won't get political, but I see a lot of propaganda going on out here, and I probably can save that for a different video. So I'm a sane person who's very fair. I was told this by a regional manager many years ago when I used to work as a security guard at a Home Depot, by the way, and they had like the big wigs would come and do the surveil the store and make sure things are up to par with the upper management. They were higher up than the upper management. They were like the regional directors. You know, they would come and inspect the store and legitimacy, make sure everything's going as normal. Then you had employees, for example, who even own stock in the company and stuff like that, by the way. They were the overseers, and one of them stated at the time, spoke highly of me, my astuteness, by the way, just using this as an example, what people have said about me from the outside looking in. And he said, I can tell you're a fair person. And I was like, wow, just was, really didn't know this guy, didn't know his name. But he said he could tell that in the way I carried myself, presenting myself in a professional manner at the time in the career field that I work in, by the way. So just to clear that up, this is a book that I've had for maybe several years now. It's fairly new. I want to say this book is more advanced, so I wouldn't recommend, if you're a newbie in this, looking into this type of information, it's important to get your foundation down. But for those out there who had questions, by the way, about why some people charge, I do understand why people do charge. However, it is a balancing act because time can equal money. And I look at the fact I mentioned in the past, when people pay for concerts to go see different music artists or comedians or different shows, people pay for clothes. You know how people are into different things where they may be materialistic, but people, as someone stated, I got this from years ago from listening to another a person who was advanced that dealt with this movement, said people don't want to pay for their freedom. They just want the easy pathway. But I want to show you, if you are truly genuine and you have the tenacity and the mental toughness, the mental fortitude to learn on your own, the aptitude, it is possible. Even at the level that I'm at, that I got to, I won't consider myself a beginner. I'm not at the level that I would like to get to yet, but I have, because I've been in learning this information since 2004 officially. By the way, I've known about this a year prior. I can give you great insight from my eyes, from the outside looking in, because I've been in this, knowing about this particular movement for a number of years. And it's not just a movement, it's a way of life. But I want to explain to you guys, yes, it is unconventional. I did a previous video discussing that on a level of a collegiate university, by the way, because some have said in the past, you literally have to become like an unofficial lawyer, by the way. And I want to say you don't, in certain states, you have to look up the laws. You don't have to have a license to practice the law. I do have the specific law statute for Michigan someone gave me some years ago, but you have to look up for your own state. But it depends on how you're operating in certain contracts and how, if you give jurisdiction, if you're not operating a particular type of way, and how a entity within the judicial system, by the way, can do certain things. I'm just kind of let you guys read between the lines. You know, if you want to know more, you can always set up a private consultation with me. I don't necessarily solicit, but I said I'll give the people what they want. Because in years past, for a number of years, by the way, I'd never had a Cash App or PayPal link attached to my channel, neither a GoFundMe account, or neither did I do private consultations. But because I received so many requests from people, and I used to just give people information freely by sending documents, webinars, PDF files, which, while I'm working this graveyard shift, took a lot of time away from me. I said there has to come a point in time where I had to be compensated for my time. You know what I'm saying? Because I've done enough where I said I paid my dues, and I'll just leave it at that. But if you want to know more in depth, and trust me, I can go a lot more advanced. There's those out there I do appreciate that have many that have set up private consultation that have been amazed. And I try not to also overload people, because I had one person tell me they relayed a message back that the person felt overloaded or overwhelmed. But I'll try to work with you at the level that you're at. If you're a beginner, I can tell if you're at a basic level by asking a few questions. What paperwork have you filed? What documentation? I even know levels past the levels that I am not at yet. That's beyond paperwork that I filed. I can explain certain contracts that deals with, you know, the elite status, like high level information, by the way. Yes, and I have supporting documentation to validate that, to substantiate that, in case you're wondering. But in order to acquire that information, just letting you guys know once again, not necessarily pitching to you, but I do receive requests from time to time. You have to shoot me an email. The information should be in the description box after this video uploads. If you want to know more information, you can set up a private consultation to speak to me privately to find out. I do charge a fee, by the way, just putting it out there, if you're interested. But there's information I'm going over in this video to let you all know that there's free information. You guys do not have to, if you don't want to pay, say, hey, you know, I don't want to give anybody money. I've met people like that. I understand where each side is coming from. I'm here to tell you there's free information. And even if you know how to do research correctly, like I'm in a form of an investigative researcher. There was these private meetings I used to attend many years ago in the city of Detroit, where a group of people nicknamed me Research John at the time. They came up with that nickname, called me. They gave different people nicknames, by the way. I won't go into, you know, some of the other people. I will say I will leave them to be private. But there's someone I remember. It's kind of funny. We've joked about it, laughed about it to this day, how they gave us these names, by the way. But, you know, like just like when people play sports or whatever, or do different things, people are known by their skill sets or their different qualities. So very similar to Gene Keating, I am a researcher. That's a skill set that I have. And I was sharing with you guys, I was doing research very in depth before the holiday, or during the holiday, dealing with that manual that I showed in a couple previous videos with business and law, which is related to this type of information, which is a college class that deals with information related to the so-called sovereign movement. And I don't use that term. When you hear someone use the term sovereign citizen, by the way, be very careful. I've never ever professed or claimed to be use that term, but keep in mind, it is an umbrella term that is used to discredit people, to make people look like a conspiracy theorist, to make people appear as though they don't know what they're talking about. They flew over the cuckoo's nest. You guys get the drift. They don't want the general public, the powers that be at the top. I will receive word from some different contacts that I have, by the way, privately. They don't want lower level people or commoners learning this type of information. If you go back into history and you learn what, or you might already know what the term commoners refer to, similar to citizen, by the way, and you guys can read between the lines. They don't want certain people learning this information, but I'm here to debunk some of those myths and rumors out there, and let you guys know there are resources. There are books that where you can, if you're wondering where you can purchase this at the time I purchased it off of Amazon.com, but you can also purchase it off of their website. They had a couple different websites, makefreedom.com. Here's one called www.sovereignconnection.com. I don't know if that's still up, or www.sovereignfilings.com, by the way. And I want to say on the record, they didn't ask me to promote them. I know some years ago, the guy who was, I guess, affiliated with the people who make this manual, as a courtesy, by the way, I'm just sharing this information as a courtesy, he mailed out to me for free on the house the updated version, because this version is no longer in print, as a way of saying thank you. And I thank you. I say thank you to Guy, that individual out there I spoke to for a while, by the way. And I was just sharing that information, showing love. So I just want to put that on the record, because there's agents out there and gatekeepers and people who always make things up to try to spook people, because they don't want the left hand to know what the right hand is doing. And I'm here to also set the record straight and clear up some of the myths and rumors out there, and give you guys legitimate information. So to let you all know, if say, hey, you know, you just want to, you know, brush up on this information, you say, before I give anybody information, because I've even mentioned in the past to be careful. By the way, I have some notes with me. Now, mind you, once again, there are different processes. By the way, I want to say this is not a cult. This is not anti-government. I want to say personally, I'm not anti-government on the record. By the way, I'm anti-corruption, by the way. And if, you know, that's a whole nother subject within itself. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. Let me say that again. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is not a pyramid. These are some of the myths, the rumors out there that I've heard from people that have not done their research, that have not studied. And I'm one of the first and only person that has that showed this information. Go back and watch my older videos. You go in my archive, you know, because I was concerned and wanted to show people the legitimate side, because you had these gatekeepers, these agents come out and try to discredit the information. Now, I'm not saying that there's no truth to what some of them are saying. You do have con artists out there you do have to watch out for, by the way. And that's with any discipline in life. That's with anything. You know, it could be, you know, like they've had people on the news where people have done scams with like taxes, or knocking on people's doors pretending to be utility people. There's been even people pretending to be police officers, stuff like that. These are con artists. So that's in any discipline, anything in life. But it's disingenuous to label, to just point the finger and say, oh, everybody, or you're a sovereign citizen, or you're a Moor. You know, I've never been with the Moor Science Temple, by the way. I know about them, by the way, but there's even differences even with that's more of a religious thing, by the way. That has, when I met a Grand Sheik years ago, I actually met one in the city of Detroit, and it was actually at a store in Southfield, Michigan. And I asked him, I thought he was that term of SC, and he seemed like he was more indoctrinated in the system or whatever. So I started learning there were different factions. That was like a religious faction. Then there's different variations. There is another faction that studies in redemption education, as I call it. But remember the term sovereign. Some people say you can't use two nouns in a sentence, and the State Department actually only recognizes like four or five different classifications of citizenship. I had this shared with me privately some years back by a contact that I have, where you have U.S. citizen is a form of citizenship. You have alien, non-resident alien, or an illegal alien, and then you have something else called national. So I think there's like 4 or 5 classes. So they don't officially recognize sovereign citizen. That is an unofficial umbrella term that is used to try to discredit people, to make them look like a conspiracy theorist, make them look crazy or whatever. But I'm here to talk about the legitimate side and let you all know that there are actual books and resources out there, that this is not a fraud. There is an aspect of this that is legitimate, that this is, once again, this is not a cult. This is not anti-government. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is not a Ponzi scheme. there is a legitimate side. And if you want to know more, once again, to know some of the information that I do know, certain things I don't go into detail because YouTube is public. I am aware of that. I cannot control who watches, but I am being transparent. And this is a form of accountability, because with a lot of these gatekeepers and minions out there who want you to believe that their facts matter, by the way, they don't never show a real face. They hide behind a fake account, a pseudonym, name. They don't use their real name. I've given my real name. Even the name of my channel is part of my actual name. By the way, I'm not related to the guy from Twitter too, by the way, just on the record. I was going to probably do a separate video delving into that, because I was on someone else's chat, I want to say on a side note, and I want to make it explicitly clear. I believe in freedom of speech and within the First Amendment. And I think what these tech companies, big tech giants, are doing is a violation of antitrust laws, just in my opinion. By the way, I did give a disclaimer, so this is not legal advice. But one, I encourage you to do your own homework and research. But I just want to mention that on the side note. I'm not related to that guy. His name has been mentioned quite a bit, which is part of my last name, by the way. But that, no relation to that guy. Plus, he's, you know, of a different race or whatever. So maybe way back, but I had a relative, well, I won't go into details about that, who was sort of like adopted, and that's not my real government or slave name from some years ago, as some would call, by the way. You know, I'll just leave it at that for the time being. So going over, everything is not a scam. Yes, you do have some con artists. However, once again, that applies to any discipline. You have shady people who scheme. The problem is with those who stereotype and lump everyone into one box or category without doing any legitimate, credible research into the matter. By the way, that's disingenuous. And that's what a certain gatekeeper I consider a villain out there is doing. And I just encourage those, if you have the ability, do your research. But this isn't the only book. This group, I went over the websites. You can also go on Amazon.com. What I do like about Amazon is they allow you to preview, look at the pages or glossary, the table of contents of books before you purchase them. By the way, when I've looked up different types of books on there related to different subjects, different fields, from either dating, relationships, books on trust law, wealth management, private banking. What I like about Amazon, in many cases, not all, but in many cases, they will allow you, if you scroll over to the left-hand corner, you can click on it and they will give you like a snippet, or allow you to temporarily read the table of contents to see what the subject matter is about, by the way. And that's what, if they still do have these books on there, I'm not sure. I haven't looked it up as of lately. Last time I checked, not too long ago, they were still being sold, and they had other manuals. This is more advanced, by the way, and there's an updated version of this book, by the way. So I just brought this with me here to show you guys there are legitimate resources. There are also, if you do research to whatever search engine to your liking, whether it's Yahoo, Google, DuckDuckGo, Bing search engine, do a search on the cracking the code. So someone asked me about that not too long ago. I have to get back with them, dealing with my busy schedule. You might still be able to find a PDF free ebook of cracking the code, or even of the earlier versions of the redemption manual, possibly. You know, if you know, there's free resources online for people who do know how to legitimately research. That's the type of research that I do. I've been comparing myself to Gene Keating. If many of you all have heard of Gene Keating, was a pioneer, just like Patrick Devine. He was a great researcher, by the way. Awesome researcher. So that's what I'm comparing, but I'm equipping you guys with the skill sets and ability if you brainstorm and use your mind to think. And how I do, when I tell you guys I'm really working in the meantime, I do very in-depth research, because when I was going through those manuals, those books I was going through were hundreds of pages. Some of them were 1,000 pages, by the way. And I found 4 or 5 subjects related to sovereignty. One of them was a chapter on UCC financing statements called Secure Transactions. There was another chapter on negotiable instruments, which generally that chapter is called Commercial Paper, in multiple books. This particular book that I researched and went over. So that's 2 things right there. And so I went over UCC finances statements. One book went over secure transactions to show you they're hiding from us how to do commerce. By the way, this has been done intentionally. We should have been learning this in elementary school, not just middle school, but I say as far back as elementary school, maybe by 8th, 4th, 5th grade, by the way. You know, so we would have had a head start. Because in the court system, as I went over in my previous video, they speak in a language called legalese. Look up the definition of legalese. It's been utilized to replace plain English, plain talk. You look up legalese, what that means, by the way. The definitions and vocabulary is very important, by the way, the glossary. And what I like about these different books and manuals, many of them, if not all, have a glossary in the back that have the definitions for you to look up, to get familiarized with, to further your education, to further your research, to add to the legitimacy, the credibility. So here you have someone as myself, not hiding behind a fake account, but I'm giving you real facts. But it's important that legitimate facts matter. Not only that facts should matter, but genuine evidence as to material fact that you receive legitimate information. If you are someone who is coherent, that you're not a leftist and you're not just falling for brainwash propaganda because someone said, you know, someone hiding behind a fake account saying it's the SCs, they're causing all the trouble. By the way, when you had, for example, Wells Fargo Bank that opened, it was aired on ABC World News Tonight last year, by the way, back in February, that opened a bank accounts without people's awareness. Remember that story with social security numbers in their name? And I'm pretty sure you can still find articles online. This did tremendous damage. They settled a big lawsuit, like in the billions. Remember Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, the 3 credit bureaus had a data breach? And you know, I've heard stories from people I met personally that have had their social security numbers stolen and misused, by the way. And remember all these scandals were coming out with these big corporations such as Target some years ago. Best Buy, if you have a good memory, where they said there was a data breach and people's social security numbers got leaked out. Now, was this asked the question, was this sovereign citizens? But you have this gatekeeper, and I'm pretty sure many of you all probably came across her channel. The name is not worth mentioning, but they don't talk about the other side. I talk about the legitimate side, but point out to you corporations that are being ran by these elitists behind the scenes are doing way more damage than so-called sovereign citizens, but they don't never talk about that. They don't never cover that. By the way, just something to think about. Because see, I'm getting you to think, to brainstorm, you see, because they want to dumb you down. They don't want you using critical thinking, by the way. You know how teachers in grade school would say, you know, they would, especially if you had grammar or English or math, they would break you up into different groups and say, I want you to brainstorm, use critical thinking. Or like in the corporate world, where people worked in management, you would have different teams. Or even in college classes, when people went to school for their master's degrees or bachelor's. If you're working on a class project and the teacher or the professor would have the group break down into different groups. You see, this is part of using critical thinking. It was training your mind to be able to have the ability to research, because no one's understanding why you took these classes, why the education is really important, by the way. You see how in depth I'm going? Now, who else talks about this information, and who else out there is breaking this down the way that I'm doing? It's just something to think about. I tell this to a friend of mine, a good friend who asks questions that say he's still on the fence about this information. He said, yeah, you're right. You got a point, Dorsey. Yeah, you're the only person I know that's breaking down how these college classes even apply to this information that's supposed to be a conspiracy theory, that's supposed to be made up. And this information was even encrypted in the movie Wizard of Oz. Yes, there were documents many years ago you could pull up for free online, by the way, that talked about and showed the symbolism behind the movie Wizard of Oz. And keep in mind, I learned this many years ago from a relative that before the movie came out, there were books. The books were written first. So the movie is actually based off a series of books. I used to have some of these books years ago, by the way. And at some schools, by the way, they used the curriculum. The teacher had, like there was books. This was many years ago. Curriculum system has changed drastically now. books on Little House on the Prairie. By the way, that was like another book, another series, and that was a TV show. But there were books, by the way, and the books, in many cases, preceded the movie. Now, the movie Wizard of Oz, the symbolism, so I don't get off track, when Dorothy wore red slippers in the movie, that symbolized red, that symbolized your wedding signature by blood. There was symbolism. When the Trading with the Enemy Act was created and signed in 1914, that was 1 year after the Federal Reserve Act was signed in 1913. Follow up and study Edward G. Griffin or G. Edward Griffin, the book and the series audio. He did an audio book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, when he talked about how the bankers, the Federal Reserve, how they met in secret. If you're questioning the legitimacy of what I'm going over, please do your research and homework. That's why I mentioned in the disclaimer, by the way, because I'm giving you legitimate facts, and you have someone that's not hiding behind a fake account, by the way. You're getting a real person, not a fake. Someone who's uses and has mentioned their real name, by the way. So you're getting real, genuine facts over here that truly are important to make sure you can distinguish between an agent or minion out there who's just running off at the mouth, who sometimes mixes in lies and fabricates information with real information to appear that they're more credible, by the way. So we can play this game as far as who's more credible, who's legitimate, but at the end of the day, people I've been informed and told by personally that they like my information because they see that they have a real person who's willing to show their face, that's not hiding behind a fake or pseudonym name. So that adds credibility, by the way. Big time. It goes a long ways, by the way. Not saying I do respect anonymity when people are doing it legitimately, when they're not trolling, by the way. But you have noticed just something to keep in mind. So I mentioned, go over for the legitimacy. I was discussing Wizard of Oz, the connection to this information back in when the book was written in 1914. Dorothy wore silver slippers, whereas in the movie she wore ruby red slippers. The movie, when she wore the red slippers, it symbolized blood when you give up. Remember, the Wicked Witch wanted her ruby slippers really bad in the movie, but in the book that was written, she wore silver slippers, and the symbolism was when she followed the yellow brick road, that symbolized the silver following the gold out the country, as the Federal Reserve bankers, private bankers, were setting up the Emergency War Powers Act of 1933, and while they implemented the bankruptcy, House Joint Resolution 192, Public Law 73-10, codified in the statutes at large, Statute 4848, Section 112. Well, if you want the legitimacy, if you want to find the actual law, it's located at the Library of Congress, maybe even at your National Archives in Washington, D.C. I was sent that. I do have a copy of it, and I was also sent that privately by a private investigator who follows my channel, by the way. I didn't ask him to, but he saw the work that I'm doing and how I try to prove the legitimacy, and he knows, he's aware, because you have people out here who are tracking and watching other channels who do support the work that I do and know that it's people who are misleading, who are fabricating information. And I didn't ask this private investigator, but I appreciate him because he's someone who studied, and in this field that I work in, by the way, in private security, I had to go through a background check, by the way. Just the reason I'm going over that, by the way, I have a badge number. I'm not going over necessarily, but I had to go through a background check. So I'm saying this to provide credibility. I'm an astute person. I've researched this for years. I've been someone who attended private classes. I can distinguish between what is legitimate and what is fake, by the way. So I want to tell you, there's also a propaganda campaign that's going on by those out there who want to have you believe that this information is not legitimate. Now, I want to say, just on a record, that everything is not a scam. You do have, once again, some con artists, but this applies to every discipline in life, by the way. But don't label everyone as being illegitimate or not legitimate without doing any homework or research and without being able to back it up with books and facts, especially if you're hiding behind a fake account and using a pseudonym name, by the way. Just something to keep in mind. And those out there, I say you guys have all the power. Don't take my word for what I say. I'm so confident in what I'm sharing with you. I encourage you all to do the research, and you will see the legitimacy of what I'm going over if you are coherent, by the way. And you know, there's a saying, he who has ears, let him hear, he who has eyes, let him see, by the way, to distinguish what's fact from real, you know, what's fake from what's real, by the way. So just going over that once again. Now I may go over some information pertaining to this book. By the way, there's different subjects I wanted you guys just to know earlier, because there's different people, YouTubers out here that I follow, and I don't try to compete with anybody. I want to let you guys know I'm not in no competition. When someone, I had kudos to a couple subscribers, sent me a video last year when someone had put out a video, I won't say the name or whatever, and was trying to get something started. This is what the other person, when I asked them why would they do that, and I said it was no need to engage. I ignore, generally I stay away from the beefs and stuff like that, because we're about and trying to advance. We don't need the infighting. If you were legitimately, honestly, you know, I understand the theatrics. Some people want to make this like rap beefs. It's you know, good publicity. They say some bad publicity is good publicity. So I get it. But me, myself, personally, I don't really, I'm not in no competition. But keep in mind, when you listen to different content creators who share this type of information related to sovereignty, redemption, there's different mindsets, there's different ideologies, by the way. So I'm sharing from my experience as a courtesy, because I do know that there's those subscribers, followers out there that say, hey, Dorsey, I want to know, is this legit? Where can I get resources from? They thank me, say, I thank you for sharing that information, by the way. So I just want you guys to be able to distinguish, you know, I'm not in no direct competition. Kudos to those that are advanced. I even share, even in the past, in some of my videos, I've mentioned names of advanced content creators I commend, I give kudos to. There's two that actually fell out with each other, and I look up to these brothers. I commend them for their research, by the way. I won't say their names in this particular video. And then there's another brother, there's actually three, I would say. And give you guys a hint, one of them's name starts with the Y, the other one's name starts with the J, and the other one's name starts with the A. I commend these brothers. They have an awesome skill set, by the way. There's some talented people in this world. And I don't want to let you guys know, I don't knock anybody that's involved in this, that's helped done research to advance the technology with this information, that's paid their dues through trial and error. If it was going to prison, that's made people stronger, smarter. I saw the movie with Malcolm X, rest in peace to Malik El Shabazz, years ago. It's a very inspirational movie that Spike Lee did. Just for me personally, I'm not trying to get political or none of that stuff, but I'm just using this as a reference. It was a very inspirational movie. A friend of mine that introduced me to the movie documentary Money Masters wanted me to see that movie documentary many years ago. A good friend of mine. And it was one of the most inspirational movies. And Malcolm X went to prison or whatever. He studied to learn the dictionary. He hooked up with some other people. But a lot of times when guys go into prison, they come out smarter if they learn this information. But you had this gatekeeper out there that was like, that's trying to attack people and get them, trying to call prisons and stuff to have the libraries locked down where inmates can't even learn their rights. By the way, that's evil. And when this gatekeeper first came out, they were saying, pretending that they wanted to help and be good and this, that, and the other. So you got to really read between the lines when someone says they're trying to expose scammers or con artists. By the way, they wage a good PR campaign, a good public relations. Just something to think about. So I wanted to go over that information. I commend, I'm not in no direct competition, but I wanted to let you guys know, hey, if you don't have the money, or say you only have enough where you can afford to just get a book out there, And this book was selling out the last time I checked on Amazon, so you might have to purchase from their website, www.sovereignconnection.com. Their other website, www.sovereignfiling.com. By the way, hold it up to the camera so you guys can see. So they also have another website, I believe. It's called makefreedom.com. I believe it's kind of like it will link you to their site where, you know, and they didn't ask me to promote. I'm just sharing this as a courtesy to let you guys know the type of research that I do is very in-depth, and I want to help people out, by the way. And I feel this information doesn't belong to me. I'm not selfish. I'm sharing with you guys. This is free information, by the way. I'm sharing as a courtesy to let you guys know. You say, hey, I don't have the money for consultation, or you might even be able to research and find the PDF file online for free. I know it's people that have worked their way up from the bottom, you know. So I'm just sharing that to let you guys know that it's not always about the money. You know, even before I had the PayPal Cash App link to my channel, before I did started the consultation, I had friends that told me, you know, why don't you add a link to your channel, for years. And I said, no, I just, you know, I went over the reasons why I did that. But I'm just also sharing with you guys, there's free resources, free information as well that is legitimate if you're sincere about learning this type of information, by the way, to find free resources. So keep in mind, I went over, there's the books you can purchase. There's other versions of the Redemption Manual. You may be able to find some of them free through doing a manual search of the PDF file. I want to also let you guys know that it's important to stay abreast of the information as well. So once you start to discover there are study groups out there, you may be able to find chat rooms, forums, websites, and then from there, that will give you tools to network with people, by the way. I've always recommended that it's best to start off with people in your local area. If you share a like mind, by the way, it's important to network with like-minded people, like-minded individuals, by the way. That's instead of having to travel out of state, by the way. But nowadays, we have the ability to even use Zoom. So Skype, you know, I had a private conversation with some a few years ago with someone on Skype that was pertaining to something else. But it's different ways to network, by the way, if you're truly genuine. But I would say screen people out, you know, always make an assessment and evaluate people too, by the way. I did give a disclaimer to show you I'm giving you a fair, balanced perspective, you know, and that's with anything in life. You know, evaluate, because you might find, you know, a study group or study partner that may fit the direction you're trying to go. You don't necessarily have to do the nationality thing. There's another aspect of SPC, Secured Party Creditor process, that's separate, by the way. There are different processes. I've had the ability throughout the years with my experience to be able to see these different processes. There was a process many years ago called the usufruct that starts with the U as in universe. That S is in Sam, F is in let me see, usufruct. U is in universe, S is in Sam, U is in universe, F is in Frank, R is in Roberto, U is in universe, C is in cup, T is in Tina. Usufruct. It was spelled something like that, or usufructory. It dealt with reversionary interest. It was another unique process that was introduced some years ago, because with the experience that I've had, I've always noticed throughout the years, there was always like a new guru that would pop on the scene every year, every 2 years, by the way. But these were like pioneers in the movement before we had advanced books out like this, by the way. It was hard to come by this information. It was through word of mouth, privately. There's another guru, or someone I would say more advanced, that goes over this type of information, that's gone over some of the history of this, where you guys have it easy nowadays. When I first learned about this, this was through word of mouth. You know, there were resources online, but you had to know how to research and what to look for and what websites and stuff. So at the time, and there wasn't as many people who had these skill sets. Like nowadays, You have webinars. You have people that have YouTube channels that have reshared audios. You've got vlogs, radio shows that discuss this information. It wasn't like that many years ago, by the way. I'm not complaining, but I can tell you that's my experience that I have from seeing this, the history and this and how this has evolved. So that means my information is going to be more credible than if you're listening to some of these minions, underlings, and gatekeepers out here, and agents, villains who don't have your best interests at heart, who would prefer for you not to learn this information. Because I've got word privately, there's people at the top that say, hey, they don't want people learning this type of information. They want to keep this hush hush. And I mean, they are serious about this. I was like, whoa. You know, they've even hidden this information. That's why I went over that information in that book, Business and Law. Can you imagine that? They're hiding this information from how to do commerce. You have to ask the question, why did you take those college classes or classes in high school to prepare you for real life or for the real world? When you took economics, macro and microeconomics, you took business, finance, accounting, how to do math, how to balance a checkbook, how to do a budget, how to invest. You know, you see, or learn about registered security, stocks, bonds, insurance brokers, stuff like that. You see? So you got to really start to question. If you listen to certain channels out here who are trying to tell you that these people, that this is a cult or that these people are evil, that's a propaganda campaign that's going on too. Similar to the mainstream media, what they're saying about this election stuff. That's a whole nother topic. But just drawing a comparison, there's some similarities. There's an individual out there that's gaslighting, that is fabricated numerous information. But I can't believe it, the lies that's being spewed, by the way. Yet the United States is a federal corporation pursuant to Title 28 of the United States Codes. I did give a disclaimer, so this is in reference to pursuant to Title 28, Section 3002, subsection 15, read subsection A, B, and C. Similar to other corporations. Let me say that again. And it's stated online. You can look this up on Yahoo or Google in the search engine or DuckDuckGo, whatever search engine to your liking. It stated the United States is a federal corporation. Unequivocally, this is a fact. You had this gatekeeper out a while ago said that that was not true. Just blatantly a fraud, blatantly lying, fabricating information. No different than the mainstream media, many of them saying that there's no evidence of voter fraud. And I just gave you the law. And I'll even go a step further. If you want to know the legitimacy of some of these laws or treaties, by the way, you can actually go, if it's still open. I know things have been closed down because of COVID, but I did this already with other groups of individuals privately. You can travel to Washington, D.C., their museum, the National Archives, the Library of Congress. They actually have documents you can purchase and get certified copies that prove the legitimacy. So it's got to a point with these people that are not only agents lying about this information, similar to this election stuff, which I believe they have another agenda, that this is evil, that they're trying to tell you this is not real. But I just showed you can go to the Library of Congress and the National Archives and get certified documents. Wow, Dorsey, I didn't know that. Yeah, I know, but stop listening to some of these gatekeepers out here who are leading you astray. This is a bombshell I just dropped for you. If you really want to honestly learn the legitimacy of this information, you're going to have to research in depth. There's going to be a fight because there's an agenda. There's people out here who are trying to take away your rights. They're trying to circumvent the rule of law, unilaterally circumvent the Constitution, go against their dereliction of duty. And this is very criminal in nature, very criminal. And some of this is coming from public officials, lawyers, and judges. Not all, because I'm not going to stereotype like what they like to do. But similar to this election stuff, there's ways to prove that this information, there's books out here, is legitimate. There's different subjects different processes. But I just showed you the law that stated the United States is a federal corporation. United States Code Title 28, Section 3002, subsection 15, and subsection C, I believe it's, look up A, B, and C, the whole law. There is another law that deals with how the Federal Reserve Bank, you know how these lower level banks that all fall up under the Federal Reserve, even the credit unions, by the way, such as you have Michigan First Credit Union, told me this many years ago that they were a member of the Federal Reserve Board. No different than Chase Bank, Bank of America, Huntington, SunTrust. Who else can I think of that have connections under the federal, you know, these mom and pop banks, Independence Bank, many of these credit unions, First Federal Credit Union. Did I mention Huntington Bank, Fifth Third, First National? You can call them up and ask them. That's not a coincidence. And if I didn't forget, by the way, as I was going over earlier when I discussed the symbolism of Wizard of Oz, look up the documentary called Money Masters and Monopoly Men. By the way, look up Money Masters. You should still be able to watch this for free on YouTube if you can. You may have to find it because they're trying to hide this stuff. By the way, so YouTube changed their algorithms, and that's why I recommend start getting on other platforms as a backup. Just have it as a backup. You have Parler, Rumble's a video web hosting platform, Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, Brighteon.com. You have Alex Jones at Band.video. By the way, and some of your favorite content creators that have disappeared off of YouTube or videos that YouTube is banning. By the way, like that video that the lady, she's phenomenal. What's her name? The lady, a guy asked me, he sent me this video and saw it was removed just like that. Oh, Catherine Austin Fitts used to work for our government. Saw she was in a documentary some years ago. The guy that was the owner of Procter & Gamble, you know, the place that makes the soup company. He did a documentary some years ago called Thrive. I think that's why I saw her name, and she's been interviewed by numerous different astute people from different backgrounds. Even by Alex Jones. Her name is Catherine Austin Fitts. She was interviewed by economist Greg Hunter, who has a YouTube channel. Phenomenal woman, has excellent information. Do you know YouTube took the video down just like that? This is a propaganda campaign. Why are they hiding this information from us? This is evil. This shows you if you are coherent. If you see the truth that this is happening, they are trying to bring in the New World Order now. So it's time for Christians, if you're a real Christian or a true believer or follower of Christ even, or Yeshua, to stand up and fight the forces of darkness, whether you believe in God or not trying to get religious, but there are those that are operating from a lower frequency. I had a sensei that trained me in the martial arts, was one of the smartest people in the world, one of the smartest people that I know, and stated to me, and things I learned about life, that there's still a good and an evil, whether you believe in good versus bad or your outlook, your interpretation, that there's a difference between positive energy and negative energy. Negative subtracts and takes away. It's just, some people say you're operating from the lower self. But can't you see there's an energy that is trying to come in and that is intentionally being used by the mainstream media, CNN, MSNBC. And you know that these people, many of them have connections to Hollywood. And if you heard about these child sex trafficking rings and Pizzagate, that stuff is real. This stuff is legitimate. There's documentaries. There's cases that have happened with Jerry Sandusky. What's the guy? Jeffrey Epstein. What was his girlfriend that was arrested? Ghislaine Maxwell. Worldwide international pedophile ring. I read this in David Icke's book, Children of the Matrix, that I showed in a previous video. Wow. How did I know about that? Because I do research. You see, I'm using critical thinking that I encourage and empower you guys can do the same thing. Stop listening to these gatekeepers and these villains telling you this stuff, this information isn't legit. Because they're trying to, another thing, there's this faction that's trying to spook people, that's trying to put fear in people because they don't want you to know this information. But there's a worldwide awakening. We're moving into the Aquarius age. That's actually my sun sign. By the way, part of my chart, I'm an Aquarius. We're moving into the Aquarian age. We've already moved into the Aquarian age, which is the age of truth, enlightenment, by the way, creation. But the dark forces, the Arcanons, they're trying to circumvent this and use this for destruction, for evil. So God, the creator, is calling up the forces of light to rise, because darkness must come to light. By the recent events that have happened, don't worry, in the end, the creator, the Adonai, is still in control. You know, the creator, the omnipresent, the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and end. You have in science, everything's made out of atoms, right? Protons, neutrons, and electrons. Notice the first man's name was Adam, similar to atom, the first. Then in the Bible, it talks about the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. How is it possible that something or something can be omnipresent? Remember, scientists discovered the God particle. You can look up the Higginbotham theory, the God particle, by the way. Just research these things. Look up, YouTube has information if you've never heard about this information. But there are those who are trying to bring us into a dark age when we're moving into an age of enlightenment. This could be a renaissance. They're trying to suppress us, and they have done that. That's why I've drawn a connection similar to the election stuff, where they've been trying to suppress the information related, and they don't want you becoming free because they're stealing your secret TDA account. They've been using it. We've proven this when we contacted Telecheck some years ago. And the lady was several representatives I met were able to confirm I had an account with the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, and I had an account with the Bureau of Public Debt, another department of the Treasury. And they described how those accounts were supposed to be used, but yet when we attempted to use those transactions, we were getting reversals. Because we were told, I was told many years ago from this private event that I attended, by the way, you don't have a signature card on file. So if the individual is really concerned, why didn't you do the signature card for us? By the way, why do we have to wait for the black card? Because if we had access to the signature card, by the way, where those transactions would be able to go through without no reversals, then that means myself and others will be able to do ACH transactions. But it let me know, no, they have another agenda. This individual wants to see us suffer. He's already free. Many of these elites are eating good. They're sleeping good at night. They're well taken care of. And they're feeding you on this bull crap about this humanitarian project that they want to help out. But the first people you should have helped was the people within your organization. When you talk about demonstrating to being a good steward, you all should have been they should have been the first good stewards, because your word is supposed to be your bond if you want people to trust you and set up a trust. So truly, they weren't being honest. They were being deceitful. So they're not really, that was not righteous. That was deceptive. That was deceitful. Don't try to pin it off on people, these boogie shadow people behind the scenes, and say, oh, they're in charge, or you're just a mouthpiece for them. Don't try to pin it all on them, because, you know, people can read between the lines. If you were genuinely concerned and you genuinely wanted to help people out, wouldn't it have made sense? The first people you would help out would be in your family, by the way. You would help your family first, because blood is supposed to be thicker than water. If your word is your bond and you want people to trust you, and setting up a living trust and having a legacy, just something to think about. But it was deceitful, just showing what these individuals did. But you have to read between the lines. So I'm giving you by going over this information in this book, I'm empowering you all, my listeners. You guys have all the power. I'm just simply a messenger. I'm just simply, remember, as Morpheus told Neo in the movie The Matrix, that we're supernatural beings living in a physical body, or this body is just a vessel. You know, I'm just simply a messenger, just sharing this information with you guys, by the way, because I want you all to know the truth. And I don't belong to no organizations. I'm not part of no clubs or no secret societies. I don't have a card-carrying membership. by the way. I'm a light worker. I'm an empath, by the way. I was an indigo child. If you heard of that from the 80s, Generation X, actually late 70s, an echo boomer. Echo boomers were the children of the baby boomers from the timeline of that generation as it crossed over into Generation X, by the way. And this was put on the news some years ago. They mentioned, they came up with these terms. They had echo boomers. They were the children of the baby boomers. And then and how they timelines before the millennials came in. And then now you have Generation Y coming up and so on and beyond, by the way. But I was an indigo. As my aunt told me some years ago as I was a child, she was actually, I discovered many years later, she went to a school for gifted children, by the way. And she stated to me when I was a little boy that I asked her a lot of questions because I felt she had all the answers. And she would oftentimes give me the answers right on the spot if she knew them, by the way. And she even bought me this book I can remember many years ago called the Tell Me Why books. And I've been meaning to research those and see if that's still around or who put those out, because she knew, she used to say to me, she said, nephew, you're very inquisitive. So for Christmas one year, or maybe for my birthday, I can't remember that exactly, even though I have a good memory, she got me these Tell Me Why books. And I was assisted with encyclopedias because I wanted to know the answers of life. Naturally, being an Aquarius, I wanted to know the truth. We're in the Aquarius age, the age of enlightenment, the age of truth, by the way. Why is it that this faction is trying to suppress this information from us? You have to question that. They're operating from a lower frequency. It's important to know thyself and who they are and these entities that are trying to deceive us. So just know, as I'm sharing information and going over, this book deals with many different chapters. This is free information, or you know, however much this book is advanced, even if you are a beginner, but I recommend you get the basics down. This book can help equip you with the skill sets and the tools that you need to understand what's going on and how you enter into commerce and how you do business out here. And while we took those college classes and when you're doing business as an adult, when you go to purchase a home, you rent an apartment and have a family, work a job that is called commerce. Some people call e-commerce and doing business as. That's why you took these classes in college: macro, microeconomics, business and law, finance, accounting, to balance the checkbook. It's common sense. Why is no one telling you these things? You know, so this book right here, and there's others out here to show you there are legitimate resources that can help you assist one that's not as expensive, where you don't necessarily have to go and pay someone $1,000 or $500. If you truly want to learn on your own, it's right here. And there's other books, and some of them you can preview. Some of these other books, like Cracking the Code, you might still be able to find the PDF file for free, just doing a Yahoo or Google search. Or look up, I saw one website just doing research that had the a secure party creditor manual many years ago, where someone had pieced together a format, because this information is unconventional. It's not, I want to say, it's not a silver bullet. As April Lejeune said, this is not a one size fits all, by the way. You have to apply yourself, but you can formulate and you can get through, you can exit the matrix. It is possible. There's some things, if you want to know more information, you can set up a private consultation. Just putting it out there. But I'm here to tell you there are resources, once again, that if you are serious, you order this book, it will help equip you. You read this, you live this, you breathe this, you know, and how can I put it? You have the tenacity, the wherewithal, the work ethic to follow the paperwork, the discipline, what it takes. You could be more advanced than the level that I'm at. Like I said, I'm not in a competition with any other YouTube content creators out there that teach this information. I actually commend, as I mentioned earlier, there's 3 brothers I look up, speak highly of. I've actually mentioned their names in previous videos in the past. They're phenomenal. And there's different processes. So not everyone is going to have the same procedure, by the way. So just putting it out there. You guys have to determine, if you study under someone, you have to decide which pathway that you're going to go down. That's why I put in my disclaimer, everyone is responsible for their own affairs. You know, I'm just saying, you have to determine on your own. So let me see if I'm going over quite a bit. It's kind of preaching to you guys. See if any more people join in the chat. By the way, I see Digital Gold in here had mentioned something about XRP. Yes, I know. Yep, I know about that. I said not a bad choice if you are invested. By the way, it's good things I hear coming. Mary Saunders says, good evening, Mr. Dorsey. Greetings to you, Mary. Thank you for joining. See you in here quite a bit, loyal subscriber. Sometimes, if you would like to, Mary, if you're still watching, if you don't mind, you know, I need some more moderators. If you're interested, let me know. Digital Gold says, why did USA give dinar to Iraq? By the way, that's a good question. This video wasn't really geared towards that subject, but there is a process behind the scenes that's going on that I think was set up. There was a plan because of their government, the resources that it had. And remember the bankers at the top. If you watch the movie Money Masters, without spoiling it for you, and you do the research on Monopoly Man, you'll get a better understanding of how the world economics work. World policy, international business, by the way. Says, Glenn Adams II says, typical accuser has no backbone. Digital Gold says, hard to show people truth sometimes. Yes. They think the real truth is the propaganda. Greater Parrot 3 says, why are you streaming this so late? Not Digital Gold says, not late here. Greater Parrot 3 says, it's 12 a.m. where I'm at. Okay. I understand. I did say at different times I will try to come before you guys. I just want to know, as a content creator and trying to be consistent in putting out information for you guys to answer that question. The reason why I stream late is because I obviously, and I got to get back in a little bit, by the way, but I intentionally did some of my patrols earlier than usual to get out the way. So, you know, it is for what it is. I want to show you guys consistency, by the way, and let you guys know I'm still here. So I will put out some videos during the day sometimes. Hopefully I can get better at that. I did for a while. Digital Gold says RV or no RV. That is the question. Laugh out loud. I'm quite confident. Yes, I know it seems like we're waiting forever. I understand. I overstand that. Digital Gold says Pence received a gold coin during a Freemason handshake. Okay. I don't know anything about that. Dronep TV says message retracted. Okay. Digital Gold says good night. It's his schedule, not yours. Laugh out loud. Digital Gold says thumbs up. Glenn Adams II says, hey, yo, by the way, thank you. Appreciate you. I'm glad you liked it. I saw you in the comment section from the previous videos. Appreciate you joining. Glad that you, I'm happy you were able to enjoy the information. I appreciate you. Sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for joining. And to all others who do appreciate the information, I appreciate you, by the way. Digital Gold says, truth, we are too. Naomi 415 says, yes, very true. At 123, okay. Glenn Adams II says, this is indeed a spiritual battle. Glenn Adams II says, energy indeed. Ike was right all along. Yes, you are correct. Yes. Naomi 415 says, energy shift. Glenn Adams II says, we are creators. Alim Atom. Naomi 415 says, thank you. Thank you. Namaste. Well, guys, that is my time, everyone. Hopefully, I went over information. Maybe I should have brought or could have brought other books maybe down the road. There will be other subjects. I wanted to let you guys know there are resources related. The topic was, is redemption education legitimate? And where can I find free resources? What I went over in this video, by the way. And this is one of the books that I showed, by the way. Operating Sovereign, Live Free, Stay Free. I went over, you can purchase this at www.sovereignconnection.com, www.sovereignfiling.com, maybe makefreedom.com, amazon.com. You can look that up. It'll even suggest maybe even the other books if Amazon does still carry the book. I'm not sure exactly, but just sharing as a courtesy to let you guys know there are legitimate resources if you are interested. So you don't have to necessarily give anybody money, those who say, you know, or if you still want to study up on this some more and say, hey, Dorsey, I'm on the fence about this like a good friend of mine. I have questions. I understand. Just to show you how real I am. And I'm not hiding behind a fake account. So you have to question that. But I appreciate you guys. Big hug. Thank you, family, for joining. I'm your host, John Dorsey, the third, doing business as the legal person, by the way, at Dorsey's Resource. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Facebook at Dorsey's Resource. I'm on Twitter handle at Dorsey's Resource. I'm also on alternative platforms such as at Parler, Minds.com. By the way, I did just start a Rumble account. I don't have any content yet, so just bear with me, guys. You know, I may have some stuff in store for you guys down the road. I'm also on Instagram, which is like my more laid back, my more hip hop liberal side, by the way, you know. So appreciate you guys for joining me, rocking with me this late. Thank you for your time. I see the last few in the chat. Naomi 415 says, thanks for sharing that book. I follow a few people covering that topic, and I'm studying to try Laugh Out Loud. Appreciate you, Naomi. Glenn Adams II says, safe night to you. Namaste. Safe night to you all. The marathon will continue. Real legends never die. To you guys out there, stay woke. Wakanda forever. Till next time, deuces, peace. I'm out.